Hello YouTube. Today we're back with another video and we're going to be talking about what does CC even mean? Well, crowd control usually refers to a status effect in the game that in some way either immobilizes, stuns, or otherwise disrupts an opponent. There are many different forms of this. A basic example would be a flashbang in a shooter. You lob a grenade, it explodes, and briefly blinds whoever's in the area. But when you're playing something like Call of Duty, most players wouldn't call that a CC, they would just say a flash or a blind. The term is most often associated with MOBAs and hero shooters, and is used to classify an ability that a character has that inflicts a crowd-controlling effect. To showcase the different kinds of CC, let's look at a game that most will be familiar with, Overwatch. We'll start with a character that most anyone who's ever seen or played Overwatch is familiar with, and that being Cassidy. Cassidy is a simple character. A cowboy wielding a western revolver. His kit is very easy to understand. Shoot, roll, and high noon. In his kit, he also wields a flashbang. If you're familiar with Overwatch 1, you'd know that the ability doesn't blind people like the one in COD does, but it rather stuns people. A stun is one of the most basic forms of CC effects in this kind of game, restricting movement and access to abilities while under this effect. A stun is generally a short effect, lasting only a second or so, but it gives a great enough window for the player to follow it up with an additional ability or attack. A stun is the kind of effect that most people would call a hard CC, which generally just refers to something that completely disables control from the affected player. In contrast, a soft CC is something that will instead restrict you in one way, while still allowing the affected to have some agency, such as using a defensive ability. A soft CC would be more fitting to how Cassidy's flashbang works in Overwatch 2. Applying a hinder debuff instead of a full stun. The only issue with these two terms is that they're blanket terms. They don't fully cover for every type of effect or ability. A character like Lucio has his iconic boop. A boop leans more towards a soft CC, but the boop will reverse your momentum, pushing you backwards, but it won't disable any of your abilities, so it's not quite on the same level as something that, say, Cassidy's hinder. To make it as simple as possible, we'll just call boop and other abilities like it a displacement effect, but keep in mind that even adding one more category doesn't even remotely begin to cover every single ability that could be considered CC. For this video, that's about as much as you really need to know about crowd control effects, but don't be fooled because they are so much more complicated than that, and this is just an extremely oversimplified overview of the mechanic as a whole. As long as you understand that something that completely locks you out of any abilities is a hard CC, something that locks you out of movement or movement abilities is usually just a soft CC, and displacement abilities are like knockbacks, and every other kind of CC falls somewhere between these three. Moving on from that, how do you deal with these kinds of effects? Sticking with Overwatch for now, how do you stop crowd control? Well, assuming they don't just miss, a lot of CC abilities can be blocked in one way or another. Honest Sleep Dart is a hard CC effect that stuns an enemy for a minimum of 1.5 seconds and a maximum of 5 seconds against most of the roster. A Sleep Dart is just a projectile though, meaning that any barrier, bubble, deflect, or souk can stop it from hitting its target. However, if those cooldowns are off, when fired accurately, that sleep dart will always stun the target. If only there was an ability that let you circumvent this mechanic entirely, something that would make you completely unstoppable. No having to worry about hard or soft CC. Oh hi Arisa. Say hello to Fortify. This bad boy will stop any CC your opponents could ever throw at you. Earth Shatter? Nah. Graviton? Nope. Roadhog hooking you into the well for the 50th time this game? Not anymore. Is that pesky Lucio trying to farm you for a YouTube montage? Just say no. Fortify is not the only thing in this game that can do this, but it is one of the most intuitive ways to understand CC immunity. Fortify has a very clear activation. Arisa makes a clunk sound and then she goes golden. You see a shining gold Arisa, you know you shouldn't throw any of your CC abilities of any kind on her. An effect that goes hand in hand with CC immunity is cleanses. A more recent example would be Kiriko's cleanse, which not only cleanses most CC effects, but all negative effects in general. This is also where the line begins to blur between CC immunity and intangibility. Like, yes, Moira is technically CC immune while fading, but it's also because she is immune to all forms of damage, so where do you draw the line at? In this video, it doesn't really matter, I'm not going to draw the line anywhere hard, but just know for the future, Moira is technically CC immune, but also at the same time not really, but also yes, but it's complicated, so don't worry about it too much. Let's jump over to another game where I have a good amount of experience and talk about Smite for a little bit. In Smite, they have a universal option for dealing with CC, being the relic Purification Beads. This item states, using this item removes crowd control effects and make you immune to new ones for 2 seconds. This item works very similar to Fortify and is the universal option to negating CC in Smite. The main way it's used in Smite is to counter your opponent's ultimate abilities and get yourself out of sticky situations, such as being stun locked where the enemy team will coordinate all their stuns onto you and will immobilize you and kill you before you can even move. Let me introduce you to my favorite character in Smite, Terra. She's my favorite guardian in Smite, and conveniently, she has 2 forms of crowd control in her kit. The first being her 2, which puts up 2 walls which will stun enemies caught between them when you close them. And the second being this rock. When you destroy it with your first ability, it'll root any enemy caught within its range. Her basic game plan in Smite is to play in front of her team and fish for a root by combining her 3 and her 1, and then chain that into her 2, which locks the opponent down for around 3 seconds, which is a perfect time for your team to follow up and kill the opponent, usually. A good way to counter this is to use your Purification Beads during the first stun so you can leave before she can hit you with the second stun. Purification Beads are an easy option to get out of this combo, as they can be cast even while your character is stunned. Terra isn't the only character in this roster of over 100 playable characters, and she's considered to be pretty weak by most people. But there are some characters who won't find the need to buy Puri because they might already have an ability that makes them immune to CC. Take for example Aphrodite, whose ultimate is literally just built-in Puri for her and her target. Compared to a game like Overwatch, Smite has an abundance of abilities and characters who have access to CC immunity effects. Now, whether you think this is a good game mechanic or not, I don't have any issue with it, but I'm also not a hardcore Smite enthusiast, so you can argue with me if I'm wrong, but I'm personally fine with it in Smite. It feels perfectly fine. The biggest takeaway here is that when a character in Smite uses something that has CC immunity, there is an indication of some kind, whether it be the Puri effect or a special aura that'll surround the character when they use their own ability. Finally, let's just close into the main topic of this video. You guys heard of this little game, brand new, it just came out recently, hero shooter I think, it's called like, I don't know, Marvel Rivals? You may be saying to yourself, this feels like a random segue into Marvel Rivals. None of those videos had anything to do with it so far. And to that I say, hey, shut up, man. Okay, I'm trying my best here. Where to begin with Marvel Rivals? Let's start by looking at a few of the CC abilities available in this game. Penny's secondary fire is a web. You shoot it at a player and it'll stun them for a moment. Like most other stuns, this can be used to cancel abilities if timed well. Doctor Strange is in many ways like Reinhardt in Overwatch. Like Reinhardt, if a Strange is hit with a stun ability, it will prevent him from activating his abilities, and can even be used to prevent his ultimate from coming out. There are even soft CC abilities as well, such as Squirrel Girl's Acorn, which roots when hitting a target. And there's even displacement abilities, like Invisible Woman's launch ability. Similar enough to something like Overwatch, right? Now let's talk about CC immunity in Marvel Rivals. In Rivals, there are many things that can make you immune to CC, to the point where it is so fucking confusing as to what constitutes CC immunity. Remember our examples earlier. Overwatch, Gold Horse, CC immune. Smite, aura surrounding your character, CC immune. Let's go into the mindset of someone who just started playing this game. You just downloaded Marvel Rivals. You wanted to play Doctor Strange, so you go into training, you learn what all his abilities do, so you have a general idea of how to use everything. You test that out, you're like, oh okay, this makes sense, I know how to use this kit. It's like Reinhardt from Overwatch, like I said. Now you're in a game. The enemy team has a Punisher, and a couple fights ago you heard Judge, Jury, Executioner! And you watched your entire team get decimated. You have some experience in Overwatch, and Punisher's kinda like soldiers, so what's a good way to shut down soldiers? Stun them, obviously. So you're in the next fight, you have a position right around the choke, and they don't have a way to deny your ultimate at all, so you hear once more, Judge, Jury, Executioner! And in response, you ult him right back. And you go, by the eye of Agamotto! And you hit a fat ult, separating the entire enemy team's souls from their bodies. And then you go to try to kill them. But uh-oh, you notice something. The Punisher, whom you have just tried to send into the Shadow Realm, looks at you and publicly executes you, killing you and your team. A tough loss, but maybe you just didn't look at Punisher's abilities very closely when you skimmed by. So you go back, you read his ultimate description. Unleash 2 Gatling guns and missiles to attack enemies. Anyways, yes, that was based on a true story, and yes, I am still salty. How could you tell? Okay, so picking up 2 Gatling guns, that makes you immune to all CC. Got it, understandable. Turning into a tornado, immune to CC. Perfectly fine, yeah, that makes sense. Turning into the largest character in the game, whose upper arm is about the size of your average support player. Okay, so you're not CC immune. Oh, okay, I'm starting to get it. Turn into Spider-Man Beyblade. Ooh, there we go. Not CC immune. Okay. Oh, but if you unleash a symbiote, then you are... Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Going into the sky for a lightning strike. Okay, they made some changes, and now it's CC immune. Okay, sure. Why not? Turn into the literal goddess of death, CC immune. Yeah, that makes sense. And raising your arms. I guess you're CC immune. And, doing a backflip. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm starting to get it. And then this giant AoE healing aura, CC immune. Oh, this other giant AoE healing aura? No, that one's not CC immune. At this point in the video, you're probably getting ready to type this in the comments. Look at this fucking idiot. Don't they know that all of those abilities are for balance and make sense in the flow of the gameplay? And also probably contradict your entire argument with Smite because a lot of the ultimates of the game are CC immune, so how's Rivals any different? And to that I say, yeah, you caught me. I'm a bumbling moron, and you caught me in my hypocrisy. Effectively invalidating the main argument in this video. You should just click off now, because I've lost the entire plot. Or maybe, I still haven't even presented my real intentions with this video, you fool. Come on, you really think I waited all these months just to post a video to rant about one game with an interaction that gets you once as you're learning it? And then you play and understand it, and you can play around it in the future? Of course not. No, the real point of this video is the idea of clarity. Clarity. Noun. The quality of transparency or purity. Nope, that's the wrong one. Let me try this again. Clarity. Noun. The quality of being coherent and intelligible. For our purposes, we can translate this as, how do you know what an ability does in a game? Well, it's a little bit complicated. There are many factors that come together to help understand game mechanics. So let's talk about the senses. You have 5 of them. You have taste, smell, touch, sight, and hearing. Let's go through them all one at a time, though. The first 2 you can cut out for sure, as you can't currently taste or smell the game you are playing. Well, okay, you kinda can, but you're not gonna get any information from licking your monitor. Touch? It can be a way to communicate with the player, but it's not really as common. I'm talking mostly here about like controller vibration if you're a console player. Some games will occasionally incorporate a rumble mechanic as an extra source of feedback, but this really only applies to one audience of players, and it is more of a supplement to the other 2 senses. So we are left with sight and hearing. What you see in a game, and what you hear. Which brings us to my crash course into audio-video design in a fast-paced, competitive multiplayer hero shooter. In a game based around characters with abilities and cooldowns, one factor that separates a good player from a great player is cooldown management. Your own, yes, but also tracking what cooldowns the enemy has. Entire team fights can be decided by one ability, and playing around those big cooldowns will make you a better player overall. Let's hop back over to Overwatch to see some examples of this. First, listen to this sound and tell me if you recognize it. A distinct voice line, probably one of the most iconic in all of Overwatch. If you hear this line, you know that the enemy Reinhardt just used Earth Shatter. Next up. If you don't know, that's the sound of Genji's Deflect. A distinct sound that most Overwatch players can hear and recognize in an instant, even if they don't physically see the Genji using it. And one more. If you don't know this one, don't feel too bad. It's Briggs Whip Shot, a shorter, not quite as important cooldown, but one that still has a noticeable audio cue tied to it. One of the biggest reasons I love Overwatch is that despite its many flaws over the years, at the end of the day, it feels like an unbelievably polished game, and that's in no small part thanks to the amazing work done by the audio design team, who make every ability feel impactful and easy to pick out, even amidst a chaotic battlefield. Now compare that to Rivals, where I personally don't get that same feeling for many of the important abilities in the game. And at a casual level, during quick play, it's perfectly fine, but at a more competitive level, it's honestly a little frustrating not having that immediate clarity that you have in Overwatch. Looking back to Smite, we saw that there was a clear visual indicator for those abilities, backed with a line in the description of everything mentioning the CC immunity effects. In Rivals, the flavor text of many abilities and ultimates feel vague and don't really give you the full picture of how many of these skills work. There are so many interactions in that game that I genuinely wouldn't know unless I found out during the game. And to back my point just a little bit more, let me tell you a little secret about Marvel Rivals. I was actually wrong this entire time writing this script. There is an indicator in Rivals to let you know if someone is CC immune. The indicator is, if you look at a character's health bar when they're using a CC immune ability, there's going to be a slight orange glow to it. So why are you complaining, you're probably asking? It does what you want it to do. Do you want to know how we even learned that this was the case? I had just finished the first draft of this script for this video, and I was playing a little bit more Rivals just to see if there were any other small details that I might have missed in my first evaluation of it. And I happened to notice when I played Punisher and used his ultimate, that my health bar changed colors when I used his ultimate. So, I double-checked every single CC immune ability in the game, starting with Punisher's turret, and then moving on to the rest of the DPS, the tanks, the supports, and I confirmed it. It was true. This was the universal indicator. So I went researching. I double-checked every ability description. I skimmed through the patch notes. And I even went onto the official Marvel Rivals website to look at the official hero details on there. I figured that if nowhere in-game, maybe at least the website would list CC immunity as a trait of abilities, because I remember skimming through it before and seeing that the ability details on there were actually super detailed. If you go on there, you can find damage values, fire rates, ability ranges, specific healing and damage per second amounts, and even some more niche mechanics, such as how specifically the damage and explosion radius of Magneto's ultimate is calculated. But for some reason there's no mention ever of crowd control, CC immunity. They're never terms that are mentioned. For how common it is, it's fascinating that at no point is it ever mentioned. There are so many different conditions already in the game, like phased for example, that it's so weird that they never even give it a name, such as saying unstoppable in Overwatch. Something like this makes your game so much harder to approach at a competitive level, because how are players supposed to learn these mechanics other than trial and error? A great example from personal experience was during a ranked game I was playing in Diamond, where Magneto used his ultimate and I tried to use Strange ultimate on him, only for it to just not work. There's no way to know this interaction until you just get screwed by it. For this video, I literally checked every single ability in the game to see what was and wasn't CC immune. Like, did you know Punisher's CC immune while mounting his turret and while on his turret? Did you know Bucky is CC immune while in the air while ulting? Or even Venom, while he's using his dive ability, is completely CC immune. I wouldn't expect you to know this because you probably haven't experienced most of these at any point while playing. While reading, I found one spot where they mentioned CC immunity, and it was in the patch for Season 1, where they say added immunity to control effects for Thor's ultimate. It's only ever mentioned here on the patch notes, and even double checking, it's not in-game nor on the website in his ability description. It's really frustrating. Regardless of whether you think this amount of CC immune abilities is balanced or not, having an entire mechanic of the game be so trial and error for the player base. Anyways, that's the end of my rant about the CC immunity specifically in Rivals, but I do still have a few other issues regarding clarity in Rivals, but these are a little bit smaller and a little bit more nitpicky. One of those is I think there's a very big disconnect between audio and visual for abilities. To take another example from Overwatch, on a sleep dart again, it's one of the most iconic abilities in the game. As soon as she uses it in a fight, you'll know, as there's a clear visual and audio cue associated with it. You see the sleep dart projectile, and to reinforce this, just in case you weren't in a position to just see it, you also hear it when she uses it, because there is a very distinct sound to it that you can pick out during even the most chaotic team fight. Compare this to something in Rivals, like Mantis Sleep. In a vacuum, sure, you could pick out this audio cue, but during a fight, you likely won't even recognize that she used it. The purpose of this video is a criticism of some elements of a game that I think need improvement. Clarity is important, more important than some people will ever realize. I'm not a game designer, but even so, I think I could still give my view from a player's perspective because I care. I want to see this game improve. And I think the team that made this game did a fantastic job with it. I just think it needs that little bit more tweaks as the seasons progress. It's all subjective, of course, but there are elements of Overwatch I dislike, and there are elements of Smite I really hate. And hey, at the end of the day, even if Marvel Rivals ends up being a horribly balanced competitive nightmare a year from now, at least it has Squirrel Girl. As I wrap up this video, if you disagree with any of the points I made, feel free to write me an essay in the comments below. Just want to shout out a good friend of mine, Holodex, for helping me gather some clips for this video. Thank you very much. He was featured in my last video, and I would encourage you to still go follow his channel, go follow him on Twitch. Thank you for helping me gather some gameplay for this video. It wouldn't have been possible without your help, and I'll leave his links in the description below. And with that, I'm all done here. Have a good night, YouTube.